I'm Cortland Jacoby. I'm with Punch Drunk Critics, and I'm actually also from Virginia. I'm in Fairfax right now.
Great.
Yeah, though
Hi.
I've been to Roanoke a few times for church stuff. So you guys are both involved in Dopesick. Obviously, Danny, like you're adapting it from Beth's book. What drew both of you to adapt this?
You?
I started writing about the heroin epidemic when we called it that in 2012. I was a newspaper reporter in Roanoke, Virginia for many, many years. And then I started writing books. And so that was like 2012, around 2015, that's when the nation started putting together that the heroin epidemic came from the OxyContin and the opioid pill epidemic. And so then I, decided to go after that as a book and to tell the story about how it began and later fentanyl.
Once I started researching the crimes of Purdue Pharma, it was a rabbit hole of disbelief. I could not believe the extent in which they lied, manipulated, misbranded their drug. And when you hear about it, and you hear, oh well, they lied to doctors and they said it was not nearly as addictive as it was, which sounds like bad, like that sounds like a horrible thing to do. But then when you start to uncover the true facts of the lies, how utterly devious and Machiavellian and manipulative, and how it was basically a long con, starting much earlier, of redefining the nature of pain, having independent pain societies, start promoting that opioids are now safe, and then lo and behold, those pain societies are partially or fully funded by guess who? Purdue Pharma, right? So you start to see that this manipulation, this deceit, this line was so coordinated, and to promote an addictive narcotic is essentially non-addictive. It's so dangerous. So anyways, it was my outrage for the story, and then also seeing in a way into the story that felt like it could actually be told in an exciting manner, with some active investigations and some with some heart, and a real powerful story, watching the victims. So I felt like not only is this an unbelievable story to put out there, but it also could be a great piece of entertainment too.
There's definitely,
I love most about it. I'm sorry.
I was going to say,
what I love most about the adaptation is that it helps Americans in a really palatable way understand this pretty confusing story that played out. It's still playing out, but so 25 years now. But if you just look at the headlines around the bankruptcy that's happening right now,
right,
it's pretty hard to get the whole thing. But the way Danny structured his version of the story is so compelling, but you also see in real time how the actions of the Purdue executives in the boardrooms, then, almost like the next cut, then you see the reps being told to tell lies, and then you see the doctors being lied to, and then you see the person being addicted. And it really is palpable, a way to understand it.
Especially the true crime aspect. I really enjoyed watching Peter and John kind of peel away the onion of that. Will Poulter, who plays one of the pharmaceutical reps, Billy, said that he did not have access to former Purdue salesmen due to NDAs, the same way that you did, Danny. And I guess for you too, Beth, when interviewing these guys, did you get a sense that these salespeople eventually realized that what they were selling was detrimental to patients?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was interesting. We both interviewed former sales reps together. Beth interviewed some without me. I interviewed one on my own. Beth, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to betray you with that solo interview. But at first, the sales reps were conned the way the doctors were. That they were given studies that they thought were legitimate studies. There was a guidebook that they thought was just this legitimate guidebook. They had no idea that the organizations that were doing these studies were in actuality financed fully or partially by Purdue. But at a certain point, they would start to realize that there was a problem here. And I remember asking one of the sales reps, I said, what was that moment when you knew something was going on that wasn't normal? And he said, when I showed up to a pain clinic and it looked like a tailgate party. So there was just people hanging out outside,
drinking in the parking lot,
grilling meat, he said. And it was like a tailgate party. And then some of these people left, but then some stayed because it was so unbelievably lucrative for them. So there were certainly different journeys to it, but initially and for a long time, the reps themselves and the managers of the reps, they were all lied to by Purdue, by upper management.
Dopesick paints Richard Sackler as a bit of an anti-hero instead of like a straight villain.
He froze.
Hello, are you there?
You froze, but you're back now.
Okay, cool. All right, sorry. Oh, this post-COVID world, man.
It's okay.
So Dopesick paints Richard Sackler as a bit of an anti-hero. Do you see him as such? I mean, his character is a lot more rounded and complicated than just say a straight villain.
Well, I don't see him as an anti-hero. I see him as anti-something. He's certainly. I just think he is. He's a human being. So this is a human being, and there's sort of a stereotype of him is just this monstrous American Hitler. I think that's how a lot of activists view him. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but I'm saying that there's a side to this person. There's his insecurities, his pain, his wants, his desires. What's motivating him? That was a question that I wanted to just really try to crack, because I felt like it had to be more than money, because he grew up rich. He was already rich, right? So what motivated him to pathologically sell this drug the way he did? And it was, I think, pathological, especially after the 2007 settlement with the Justice Department. They plead guilty to criminal misbranding, hundreds of millions of dollars in fines. And is he contrite? Does he try to change their methods? No, he hits the gas even harder and sells even harder and becomes, more rabid about selling. So what was it? What really made him tick? And for me, that was my goal to do that, was just because that's my job as a writer and as a dramatist. And I hope that doesn't sound pretentious calling myself a dramatist, but that's what I view. That's what we're up to here. And I wanted to know. And if I wanted to know, I'm assuming the audience wants to know.
There are some real moments of levity in the show, particularly between John Hogenacker and Peter Sarsgaard's characters. Was it hard to find the comedy in such heavy source material? And also, as a follow-up question, there is a meeting with a now famous government official that gets Purdue Pharma confused with Purdue Chicken. Is that a real thing? Did that actually happen?
Can I grab that?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the levity part, well, that's the great thing. So before I started writing dramas, I wrote comedies for years, and I could never sell one. And I assumed it's because I was not a very good comedy writer. So then when I started writing dramas, what's great about that is it's so much easier to be funny in a drama, because the audience wants to laugh so much, as opposed to the audience expecting to laugh. So no, it wasn't that hard finding moments of levity. In fact, we were always searching for them. Where could we put them into the show, but in a way where it didn't feel forced or inappropriate? But if there were places for it. And the scene you're talking about is a perfect example in which John Brownlee and the two prosecutors, Rick Mountcastle and Randy Ramsire, were called in to the Deputy Attorney General's office to lay out their case. And this was early in the investigation. They were worried they were going to get shut down. And it all came to some bizarre misunderstanding. It was exactly as we portrayed it, not word for word the dialogue, but that is what happened. So sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Definitely. Beth, you co-wrote 2 of the episodes with Danny, episode 3 and episode 7. I know that you were fascinated by craft service, apparently, from in the writer's room.
I'll tell you later.
I was making a food reference.
Yeah. She wasn't on set, so, which is what craft
okay.
services. So that's why.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
like the display of all the food.
Oh,
the
I did see
snacks.
that one day.
That's
Barbara
right.
Mullins.
That's right. She
Hello.
was on set. She's in the show.
I'm in,
She steals
episode
the
3.
show. She plays Barbara Mullins, one of the great characters of the 21st century. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this was your first official venture into screenwriting. How did you like it? I know it's a very different
It was. Yeah, it was my first book. All of my books have been optioned. It was my first one to get made. Yeah.
Yes, we did it.
Totally. It's doing.
And you.
But it was. I gotta say, it was tough at first. One of the fellow writers said each scene has to have a point, a turn, and a surprise. And so I wrote that on a sticky note on my computer, which was really great advice because it's just a different way of writing. When you don't have that great tool of being able to digress and tell the history of something, and you have to instead put it in dialogue, but in a way that doesn't seem like, oh, now Danny's trying to explain to readers why the DEA screwed up, you know? It has to come out as a story. I mean, that was, and so I co-wrote the third one. He pretty much rewrote all of it, which is fine.
This is exciting. That's your first stab.
I know,
First stab out of the gate.
107. I did better.
Improvement.
Total improvement.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
How much you improved. I loved it.
It was great.
Yeah.
There's actually some lines I wrote.
So over the years, the Sackler family has slowly been losing their anonymity, as they should, and getting more of the deserved blame for the crisis. In September of this year, a judge granted the family immunity from lawsuits by the victims' families. What side effects do you hope the show has in bringing more justice and awareness to this issue?
You want to answer that?
Sure. Well, I hope, Richard Sackler said, and we have tons of proof that he said it, it's in multiple lawsuits. He said, when crime started erupting in the coal fields, he said, hammer the abusers. They are the criminals.
They're the culprits.
The culprits and the criminals. And, that is what the war on drugs has done for 50 years now. We just recently had a little anniversary of the war on drugs. And so what you have right now is lots of people who were initially addicted to OxyContin and are sitting in jail because of crimes they committed because they got hooked on this drug. Many of them weren't prescribed per se, but because so many people were prescribed based on falsehoods, there was just this pill spill in America. And so that, people started using them and got quickly addicted and it got out of hand. I'm hoping that after watching the show, the people will understand that it isn't just the abusers, as Richard called them, who should be blamed. It's the company that made billions off this drug, all for profit.
Right. Same, Danny, or?
I think there's so many things that I'd love for this show to achieve. I'd love for it to give a record, the public record, set the public record straight of their crimes, of the crimes of Purdue Pharma, to show the people what they did, what happened to them, what happened to their loved ones, to their friends, to their family, so they can see exactly what this company did, how they lied, manipulated, deceived, in order to sell their drug. But then also, I'm hopeful that the show could help turn a corner on this crisis by promoting therapies, medical assisted treatments, by destigmatizing them. Is that right? Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to speak, but so that people can look at these treatments that have had a bad rap, but it's actually untrue. They're actually very safe and very effective, and in some ways the only way out of opioid use disorder. So it's if we can, and only something like 12 to 15% of the people that need them are actually on them. It's like only saying 15% of people who need chemotherapy are on it. And maybe the show could help change those numbers. Even if the show could double those numbers from 15 to 30, the number of lives that could be saved and changed could be staggering, but hopefully that number could go up even more.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sitting down with me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank
We
you.
enjoyed it.
Bye. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.